Imagine a world where mountains are not just immovable stones, but symbols of strength and transformation, where your inner Christ lies dormant, waiting to awaken and take action in every aspect of your life. Welcome to Mountains in Motion. Vertical bar, the inner Christ in action, a powerful journey inspired by the wisdom of Emmet Fox. In this text, you won't just hear words, you'll feel ideas turning into power, as faith and awareness intertwine to move the seemingly immovable, to break limits and awaken your latent potential. Each chapter is a call to see beyond the obvious, to discover your inner power, and to act from a place of light, peace, and absolute certainty. Prepare to feel the mountain of your fears, doubts, and limitations begin to tremble, and to witness the inner Christ, your deepest guide, spring into action. This is no ordinary journey. It is an awakening, a spiritual adventure, a movement that will transform how you see your life, your purpose, and your own divinity. When Jesus spoke the words, "Truly I tell you, if anyone says to this mountain, 'Be removed and be cast into the sea,' and does not doubt in their heart, but believes that what they say will happen, it will be done for them." Mark 11:23. He was not offering a poetic metaphor, nor building a symbolic image of hope. He was declaring, with surgical precision, a universal spiritual law, just as alive, operative, and exact as the law of gravity. These words do not require blind faith. They require understanding of the principle. For Jesus was not a moralist, nor a philosopher, nor a poet. He was the supreme metaphysician, a revealer of the inner workings of the human mind in union with spirit. His language was technical, though expressed in the cultural form of his time. And like every great master, he encoded complete formulas of spiritual operation into brief phrases. The mountain he referred to is not a physical peak, but a consolidated mental image, a deep-rooted belief, a psychic obstacle that has taken shape within individual or collective consciousness. In Hebrew symbolism, the mountain represented something fixed, immovable, exalted, standing between man and his destiny. In mental terms, it is any inner structure that sustains a persistent external result. The revolutionary power of the verse is not that a mountain can be moved, but how it is moved. Jesus does not speak of physical effort, nor of emotional pleading, nor of arbitrary divine intervention. He speaks of saying to the mountain, that is, declaring with authority from a consciousness that does not doubt. This reveals a law, directed thought, expressed verbally with operative faith, free of emotional wavering, produces a specific result. Through the years, in hundreds of personal cases, I have seen this law work with the same consistency as fire burns or water wets. I have seen tumors dissolve, debts vanish, relationships restored, paths open where there seemed to be no way. And in every one of those cases, the key was the same. Someone dared to speak to the mountain with certainty, without hesitation, and the mountain obeyed. This book is not theory, it is the practical application of the law. What you will read in each chapter is not advice, but spiritual methods, verified by experience, backed by principle, and available to you here and now. Are you ready to speak to your mountain? Mountains in Motion, the law that transforms your world, based on the teachings of Emmet Fox. We have noticed that more than 80% of those who visit our channel are not subscribed. You can support this project by pressing the subscribe button and giving the video a like. Thank you for inspiring us to continue creating more and better content for you. Are you ready to transform your life? Chapter 1. Identify your mountain, the art of naming the obstacle. Every mountain begins as a thought. It is not a piece of rock, nor an external event, nor some superior force that fell upon you from a vengeful heaven. It is a mental pattern that was accepted, perhaps years ago, perhaps just yesterday, and since then has settled as a dominant form in your subconscious. It is your mental creation, even if you do not remember it. The most dangerous thing about a mountain is not its size nor its presence, but the fact that many do not even know it is there. The mountain that remains unnamed rules in the shadows. And this is the first mistake of those who seek transformation. They ignore that what torments them is nothing more than a precise mental form sustained by involuntary faith. It is invisible, yet active. It is intangible, yet it influences every aspect of life. It is mental, and it projects illness, lack, conflict, limitation. What you call reality is only the projection of that subconscious mold. The mountain is not outside. It is within. Have you ever said, "I don't know why this always happens to me," or "I feel like something is holding me back," or even, "It's as if I were carrying a heavy weight on me"? All of that is the language of the soul trying to show you what you have not yet identified. It is the inner voice crying out for definition. For every unidentified obstacle remains active. Every unrecognized mental pattern works in secret. Every unnamed mountain grows. The principle is simple, and like every truth, it works with mathematical precision. What is not named cannot be transformed. What is not recognized cannot be dissolved. That is why Jesus did not begin by saying, "Have faith." He said, "Whoever says to this mountain," Mark 11:23. He did not say to any mountain or to an abstract mountain. He said this mountain. This implies individualization. This demands precision. This means you must know clearly which mountain you are addressing, what it represents, how it manifests, and above all, how you have been sustaining it without realizing it. Stop and name it. Name it without fear, not to reinforce it, but to identify it. For in naming, dismantling begins. Is it fear of rejection? Is it poverty sustained by resentment? Is it a cycle of illness tied to mental punishment? Is it an inherited belief whispering that you cannot love or be loved? Is it guilt petrified into emotional debt? What is your mountain? Nothing happens in your life that was not first shaped in thought. What is outside has no substance of its own. It is only an externalized image. That is why, when you want to transform your reality, do not begin by changing circumstances. Begin by looking into your consciousness. Think of it this way. If every thought is a seed, then every mountain is a garden left to grow unchecked. And there is no soil more fertile than the subconscious. The subconscious does not argue, does not analyze, does not judge. It only receives and executes. Plant in it the idea of impossibility, and it will give you 1,000 ways to prove it is impossible. Plant the image of failure, and soon you will have data, people, and obstacles reinforcing that pattern. But if you plant in it the image of solution, of health, of freedom, it will work ceaselessly to bring it forth. The subconscious does not distinguish between reality and belief. It only fulfills. The subconscious is your invisible servant, and like every servant, it waits for instructions. But when you do not speak, it acts by habit. When you do not decree, it recycles memories. When you do not define the mountain, it keeps the same form. This is why the conscious mind must recover its place of authority. The conscious mind is the seat of free will. It is the throne from which you decree. It is the place from which you can speak to the mountain, and it is not about observing it passively, but facing it with the authority of truth. A woman once came to me, desperate about her finances. She said, "I don't know why money is never enough. I do everything, but I see no results." I asked her, "What image do you hold inwardly about money?" At first she did not understand the question. Later she admitted that since childhood she had constantly heard phrases such as, "Money is dirty, the rich will not enter heaven, earning too much is suspicious." That was her mountain. Not lack of employment, nor rising prices, nor her salary. It was that unrecognized mental form, faithfully sustained for years. I asked her to write for 21 days the phrase, "I am the perfect channel for divine abundance," and that every time she felt fear, she would repeat silently, "This mountain is not mine. God is my source." On the 17th day, she received an unexpected offer for a new job, under conditions better than she had ever imagined. It was not a miracle. It was law. The mountain was named, the pattern was replaced, and the external form obeyed. And what about you? Have you identified your mountain, or are you fighting against effects without touching the cause? Make it simple. Take a sheet of paper, write on it. What is the mountain that now prevents me from moving forward? Then, in silence, allow your inner Christ to show you the image. Do not seek the answer through the logic of the world. Let it come. It will not be a thunderclap, it will be a whisper. And in that instant, you will no longer be a slave to that mountain, for the very act of seeing it is the beginning of its dissolution. Remember, Christ did not ask you to wrestle with the mountain. He did not say to push it. He did not say to analyze it for years. He said, "Say to the mountain, move." And that implies that first, you must recognize it. When Jesus asked the man at the pool of Bethesda, "Do you want to be healed?" John 5:6, it was not a rhetorical question. It was a call to define the condition, an invitation to name the obstacle. Only after the man recognized his helplessness did the command come, "Rise, take up your bed and walk." The act of naming activates the law. The act of defining sets the subconscious in motion. The act of identifying dethrones fear. Therefore, from this day on, practice this exercise. Each time you experience discomfort, do not react. Observe, stop, and ask yourself, what is the mountain that sustains this experience? Then write the answer. Read it aloud and say firmly, "Now I see you, now I know who you are. And by the authority of Christ in me, I command you, move and be cast into the sea." Do this with every fear. Do this with every complaint. Do this with every appearance. For the first step in moving a mountain is not to push it, but to name it. And thus, the work begins. Chapter 2. Let the decree speak as one who has authority. No mountain obeys the one who begs. Every mountain obeys the one who decrees. In spiritual law, the word is not just another sound. It is not a decoration of thought, nor a cultural expression, nor a tool of social persuasion. The word is active power. It is thought clothed in substance. It is the vehicle through which the mind projects its content into the visible world. Every time you speak, you are shaping. Every time you declare, you are creating. And if you understand this, then you will know that the problem is not in what happens outside, but in how you are speaking within. Jesus did not say, "Beg the mountain to be removed." He did not say, "Humbly ask God to move it." He said, "Say to the mountain," to speak, to command, to proclaim. And he added, "And does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will happen, it will be done for him." Mark 11:23. Notice that he did not mention the word supplication even once. Neither did he mention human effort. He spoke only of word, of faith, of authority. Why? Because the kingdom of God is not governed by pleading. It is governed by principle, and principle responds to the word. A woman once came to me anguished because her son was lost in addiction. She had prayed, cried, fasted, begged God for years without result. I asked her, "What do you say inside yourself when you think of your son?" She answered, "That he is lost, that there is no solution, that there is no hope, that he is an impossible case." So I replied, "You have prayed with your lips, but you have decreed with your soul that it is impossible." The true word is not the one said on your knees, but the one sustained in secret. You are always decreeing whether you know it or not. Every judgment is a decree. Every label is a decree. Every diagnosis you accept, every adjective you repeat about yourself, every final conclusion about another person, every always, never, I can't, it's too late, all of these are decrees. And what you decree in the mind is fulfilled in form. Not because God punishes you, but because the law obeys your conviction. That is why Jesus spoke with authority. He did not need to shout. He did not argue with the Pharisees. He did not beg the Father. He simply said, "Rise, take up your bed and walk. Be clean, come out. Lazarus, come forth." And form obeyed, not because it was a miracle, but because he spoke from principle. Principle responds to the voice of the one who has recognized his unity with it. The mountain moves not by human effort, but by assumed divine identity. And that identity is activated through the word. Now then, you must understand a crucial distinction. Praying is not the same as decreeing. Prayer is alignment. Decree is action from within that alignment. Prayer establishes contact. Decree establishes command. Prayer opens consciousness to truth. Decree projects that truth into form. They are not separate, but they fulfill different functions. One is receptive, the other is emissive. Prayer is like lighting the lamp. Decree is like directing its light. And this is why affirmative prayer, which unites both aspects, is the highest form of communion with God, not as a subject, but as a child. The child does not beg for inheritance. The child claims it in peace. The child does not plead for healing. The child proclaims it in faith. The child does not ask for permission to prosper. The child declares, "I am the source of all provision." The key lies in understanding that the proper use of decree is not based on the volume of the voice nor on mechanical repetition, but on the consciousness from which it is spoken. A decree made from fear, even if well formulated, will not be fulfilled. A decree made from doubt, even if repeated 1,000 times, will move nothing. The decree is born from the knowledge of who you are, and you are the expression of principle, a child of God, bearer of His word. This is why the sacred name I Am is the key to effective decree. When you say I Am, you are activating being within you. You are not speaking as a separate individual, but as a channel of spirit. And everything that follows I Am becomes command. I am health, I am peace, I am provision. I am the one who commands the mountain to move. But be careful. If you say, I am a disaster, I am weak, I am poor, you are also decreeing. The law makes no exceptions. It fulfills without emotion, without favoritism, without judgment. Like electricity that either lights a lamp or electrocutes depending on how it is used, the word acts according to the consciousness that sustains it. So then, how do you speak as one who has authority? First, silence every inner voice that contradicts your truth. Quiet the repetitions of fear, of the past, of judgment. Then align your thought with the spiritual truth you know. Do not think of appearances, think of principle. And when your mind is established, declare in the present with certainty, with the assurance of one who has already received. Do this daily. Choose a time each day for your decrees. Do not do it as a superstitious ritual. Do it as an act of inner government. Begin with something simple. Declare aloud in a firm tone, fixing your gaze on a point as if signing an invisible contract with life. I am the channel of perfect transformation. I declare that this day is filled with divine opportunities. I decree that perfect health now manifests in my body. Do not look around you seeking proof. The word itself is the proof, and form will come, as it always does, obeying the mental mold you have released. Remember, the mountain does not move because you insist that it vanish. It moves because, by speaking with authority, you have changed your vibration. The outer world cannot resist a mind that has decided. For truth does not struggle, truth establishes itself, and it establishes itself through the word. Once a young man came to me anguished because he could not find purpose in his life. He felt lost, empty, disconnected. I told him, for 7 days, every morning, stand up and declare, I am guided by divine wisdom, I am on my perfect path, my purpose is revealed now. He did it with faith. On the 5th day, he received a letter that changed his course. The door had always been there, but the decree refined his vision until he saw it. This is how the law works. The decree does not force reality, it redirects it. It does not impose conditions. It reveals the harmony that already exists in the divine mind. It does not demand results. It confirms the truth that is eternal. And you have access to it. You only need to speak as one already invested. For you are. You always have been. There is no greater blasphemy than to say that God lives in you, and then speak as though it were not true. Speak as one who knows. Speak as one who has authority. Speak as Christ spoke. Chapter 3. Do not doubt in the heart, silence as a technique. The decree is the key, but the key cannot open if the lock is obstructed. And the greatest obstruction in the spiritual lock of the soul is doubt. Not the honest doubt that asks open questions in a sincere search. That doubt is a teacher. I speak of another, the silent, passive doubt, clinging to the depths of consciousness like hidden dampness that weakens everything without being seen. This doubt does not announce itself, it is not confessed, it is not easily recognized, but it manifests. It blocks, paralyzes, frustrates. And it does so not with violence, but with the appearance of normality. That is why it is more dangerous than a gross error, because it disguises itself as prudence, as logic, as realism. Jesus did not simply say, speak to the mountain. He added, and do not doubt in your heart. Mark 11:23. There lies the secret of fulfillment. For to speak to the mountain without doubting in the heart is not an emotional act. It is a state of unified consciousness. And remember, in the language of Jesus, the heart is neither the physical organ nor the seat of romantic feelings. The heart symbolizes the subconscious, the invisible field where the images are planted that later germinate as reality. Everything you sustain in the subconscious governs your life. Everything you declare with your lips but deny in the heart remains ineffective. The subconscious does not listen to what you say. It absorbs what you believe. That is why many speak beautiful affirmations yet reap contrary results. They declare health, but secretly believe in sickness. They proclaim abundance, but feel that money is dangerous. They speak of peace, but their soul is addicted to conflict. Principle does not respond to sound, it responds to the vibration that carries the sound. Doubt is precisely this: an incoherent vibration, an invisible sabotage, a crossed current of thought that interferes with the circuit. It does not need to be spoken to operate. It is enough to sustain it in silence. But here is the good news. Doubt is not condemnation. It is not sin. It is not divine punishment. It is simply a mental deviation that can be corrected, like a compass that lost its north, like a line that drifted from its origin. And how is it corrected? Through silence, through substitution, through persistence. Silence, because a talkative mind does not transform. Only the quiet soul discovers what it truly sustains. Silence, because truth does not shout. It reveals itself when the noise is gone. Silence, because doubt is the child of noise, of excess analysis, of the habit of judging by appearances. When you fall silent, doubt becomes visible, and what becomes visible can be replaced. Doubt, then, is not the enemy of faith. It is a signal. It is a reminder that you have not yet fully replaced the old image. Faith does not fight doubt with force. It simply takes its place. Where light shines, darkness disappears. Where truth stands, the lie loses its ground. The method is not to resist doubt, but to dissolve it by constructing its opposite. This opposite is what we call the mental equivalent, a clear, precise, well-formed image of the result you desire to see. Not a vague fantasy, not a superficial wish, but a conviction felt and accepted as already fulfilled in the inner realm. Picture a balance scale. On one side lies the old image, sickness, fear, limitation. On the other, you place the new, health, peace, freedom. Every affirmation, every meditation, every visualization adds weight to the new side. And the moment will come when the scale tips. That moment is invisible, but it marks the change of manifestation. This is why one of the most powerful practices is the silent meditation of substitution. Find a quiet place, sit, breathe, let go of mechanical thoughts. Then, without words, without formulas, simply visualize what you desire as a finished work. Do not ask. Do not analyze. Just contemplate, and softly affirm within, I accept this image as true. I unite with this vision. I become this reality. Do this every day. Do it when doubt arises. Do it when the outer world contradicts your decree. For the outer world is not the teacher, it is the mirror. And what you sustain inside, though not yet visible, always appears outside. Remember the story. A woman came ill, suffering from nerves, diagnosed as incurable. She constantly said, I know this has no solution. She did not need another prayer. She needed another mental equivalent. I asked her to meditate silently for 30 mornings, repeating inwardly, I am life, I am calm, I am perfection in action. By day 22, she began to sleep. By day 30, her body stabilized. By day 40, the doctor suspended her treatment. It was not magic, it was law. The new mold replaced the old, and form obeyed. That is the art of silence, not emptiness, but conscious replacement, not passivity, but mental alchemy. Your heart was not created for doubt, but for faith, and when faith is cultivated in silence, it becomes certainty. Chapter 4. The mental equivalent, the invisible mold. Nothing can exist in your outer world that has not first existed as a form in your inner world. This is the law, and like all laws, it acts without hesitation, without exceptions, without error. The world you inhabit is a projection of your consciousness. What you call reality is simply the revelation of invisible images that have been accepted in your mind and sustained by the energy of constant attention. Every problem you have called a problem is nothing more than an old, deformed, or incomplete image still alive in your subconscious, and everything you have experienced as a solution is merely the external manifestation of a new mental equivalent properly constructed. The mental equivalent is the blueprint. It is the invisible mold that precedes every visible form. It is thought structured with such clarity that universal substance has no choice but to obey and take that form. Nothing can manifest without a mold. Water does not take shape without a container. Molten gold does not become a jewel without a mold. And formless thought does not become result. That is why prayer without internal structure is ineffective. That is why vague desire produces no miracles. That is why emotional complaint changes nothing. The universe does not respond to emotions, it responds to molds, and the mold is formed by defined thought. This is not spiritual theory nor optimistic philosophy. This is the science of the soul. Jesus never spoke in a scattered manner. When he taught, he did so with surgical precision. When he said, "Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." Mark 11:24. He was referring to a decree projected from a complete mental equivalent. He did not say, "Wait and see what happens." He said, "Visualize, feel, and accept that it is already done." This means that before something can exist in your life, you must have already seen it, felt it, and accepted it internally as real. That is the mental equivalent. Otherwise, life will shape it for you, using your fears, your memories, your judgments, your habits. Because the universe is never inactive, it is always projecting your mental content into experience. If you do not choose, it chooses according to what it finds. The question is not whether you are creating. The question is, are you creating consciously or unconsciously? Imagine an architect who wants to build a house. He does not start with bricks. He does not go to the land with a hammer and wood. He begins with a plan, a precise drawing, an image, a design. Before moving a single stone, he has already seen the finished house. That image, that plan, is his mental equivalent. Without it, building would be impossible. And if you want to transform your life, heal your body, elevate your financial situation, harmonize your relationships, you must act like that architect. You must design your internal result before expecting to see it externally. How is a mental equivalent constructed? First, choose precisely what you desire. Do not say, "I want something better." That is not an image, it is a vague hope. Say clearly, "I want perfect health throughout my body. I desire a harmonious relationship based on respect and freedom. I declare concrete prosperity, sustainable income, abundance in my resources." Be specific. Be clear. The mind cannot sustain what it cannot define. Next, visualize the image with all the details you can. This is not seeing with physical eyes, but feeling with the inner mind. If it is health, feel yourself already healthy. If it is prosperity, act mentally as someone who already lives in abundance. If it is harmony, breathe as one who already enjoys it. Do not worry about technique. The image is more powerful than the method. What matters is not how you see, but how you feel that it already is. Then affirm it aloud or silently with the formula of "I am." That is the active word. That is the key that activates the mold. For example, "I am perfect health. I am free from all limitation. I am a channel of constant abundance. I am harmony in every aspect of my life." Do it every day. Do it calmly, with faith, with joy. Do not repeat out of anxiety. Repeat out of certainty. Each repetition is not a plea. It is a chisel stroke shaping the invisible mold. And sooner or later, inevitably, the form will respond. Not as a miracle, but as the fulfillment of the law. A man came to me with chronic stomach issues. He had visited doctors, tried diets, undergone treatments. Nothing seemed to work. I asked him, "What do you believe internally about your body?" He said, "I always thought my body was fragile. Since childhood, I was told I was the weakest. That was my image. That was my mold." I asked him to follow a 30-day practice. Every morning and night, sit in silence, visualize his digestive system functioning in perfect order, without pain, without tension. Then affirm, "I am the health of God in action. My body is strong, healthy, perfect. I love my body. I trust it. Everything in me responds to the principle of divine order." He followed it diligently. By day 15, the pain was gone. By day 30, his symptoms disappeared. Months later, he wrote to tell me he had forgotten what it felt like to be sick. Not magic. Mental construction, replacement of the old mold with a new one. The mental equivalent functioning with precision. That is why I invite you to start today your journal of internal images. You need nothing complex, just a notebook, a pen, and daily time to record the images you wish to implant in your subconscious. Write clearly. Draw if you wish. Note your affirmations, record your sensations. This journal is your secret workshop. There you model your world before it appears. If you do this consistently, the journal will become a living testimony of the power of the mental equivalent. Never forget, you are not trying to change the world. You are changing the mold. And when the mold changes, the world responds. You do not need to convince God. God has already given all. You only need to create within yourself the channel through which that good may manifest. That channel is your consciousness, and the highest way to expand it is through the deliberate construction of the correct mental equivalent. Do it with faith. Do it with joy. Do it knowing that every form, no matter how solid it seems, is merely clay molded by your thought. And you, as a child of the Most High, are the sculptor. Chapter 5. The Impossible Image, Deactivating Inner Idols. No mountain can be moved while you worship the image that sustains it. For every image held in the subconscious with emotional conviction, even if disguised as logic, tradition, or prudence, acts as a mental idol, a crystallized form of belief, dressed in authority and fueled by fear. These images are not always recognized as such, yet they govern from the shadows. They lodge deep within the psyche, often from childhood, and remain active not because they are true, but because you, unknowingly, have given them power. When we speak of the impossible image, we are not referring to an unattainable dream, but to a mental idea held as unquestionable that contradicts principle. It is the inner voice that says, "That cannot be done, this will never change. Life is like this, that illness is incurable, that does not happen to people like me." Each of these statements is a form of idolatry because you are giving more power to illusion than to God. You are venerating limitation as if it were law. You are worshipping a false image that has settled on your inner altar. The Bible illustrates this clearly in the story of the golden calf, Exodus 32. Moses ascends the mountain to receive the law. The people, impatient, demand a visible God. They collect gold, symbolizing preoccupied mental power, and form an idol. The people worship this image, attribute liberating power to it, offer sacrifices, and in the act lose contact with the invisible God. This is not just a story. It is psychological dynamics. It is a metaphor for what occurs in every consciousness when spiritual truth is replaced by a mental image born of fear. Every time you believe something is stronger than you, you have made a golden calf. Every time you believe your family history condemns you, you have made a golden calf. Every time you feel that God can heal everyone but you, you are worshipping an idol. Every time you hold that money is scarce, true love is impossible, or the system always wins, you are worshipping impossible images, mental idols that contradict the truth Christ revealed. And as long as you worship these images, however decorated with religious phrases or cultural justifications, your decree will lack authority. You cannot tell the mountain to move while internally venerating it as immovable. Faith cannot operate in divided consciousness. Spiritual authority cannot manifest on an altar occupied by false gods. The mental equivalent cannot be fixed where a crystallized image has been sustained for years. Therefore, the first step is to identify the idol. Which secretly held belief is acting as law in your life? Which phrase did you inherit without question? Which false principle have you repeated for years as if it were true? Wishing for change is not enough. You must uninstall the image that blocks that change. You must deactivate the psychic power you have deposited in that illusory form. Make an honest inventory. Write in your spiritual journal every limiting phrase you have ever heard or repeated. Do not filter. Do not soften. Write them as they emerge. Here are some common examples. Money is always hard to get. Love always hurts. My family has always been poor. If you heal from one thing, you will fall sick in another. Life is a struggle. God punishes those who fail, and I am unlucky. That is only for special people. Then choose one by one and confront each with a spiritual truth that dissolves it. For example, money is hard to get. God is my source. Provision flows freely through me. Love always hurts. I'm an expression of divine love that heals and harmonizes all. My family has always been poor. The spiritual inheritance I receive from God is unlimited abundance. This process is called purifying the inner altar. It is a conscious act of spiritual cleansing. You cannot create a new image while the old one is alive. And here, denial alone is not enough. You must replace it. The mind does not accept a vacuum. Where you remove one image, you must place another. Where you take down an idol, you must put a vision coherent with principle. Do not be deceived. Some idols are so deeply rooted that they seem part of your identity, but they are not. They are merely mental forms repeated so often they became automatic, and every automatic form can be deactivated with conscious repetition. That is the key. Use decrees of dissolution. For example, this image no longer represents me. I renounce all power I have given it. I reclaim my consciousness as a temple of truth. I am free now. Say this firmly, repeat as many times as needed. Do not worry if you feel internal resistance. That resistance signals that the idol is weakening. Do not yield. Do not retreat. Give thanks for the clarity and affirm the correct image again and again. Remember, there is no image that cannot be replaced. There is no idol that cannot be dissolved. There is no belief that, when exposed to the light of Christ within you, will not crumble. A man once told me that for years he believed success was sinful. He had been raised to think that wealth signals corruption, that humility means poverty, that God only blesses those who suffer. That image kept him in constant sabotage. Every time something good arrived, he fell ill or lost it. Until one day he understood. I have been serving a false god. He performed the work of cleansing, replaced image with image, rewrote his decrees, and gradually his outer life changed. Today he is prosperous, serene, and useful to others, not because the world changed, but because he destroyed his inner golden calf. And you can do the same. You do not need brute force, you only need awareness. Every idol dies when you stop feeding it with your attention, and attention is the food of the soul. Do it now. Do it with faith. Do it knowing that behind every impossible image waits a divine image, ready to take its place. And when that new mental equivalent is established, the mountain that once seemed eternal will disintegrate like smoke, because nothing can stand against revealed truth. Chapter 6. Immediate Substitution, the Law of Displacement. In the spiritual art of moving mountains, the most common and subtle mistake is believing that it is enough to merely deny the obstacle, to repeat with force, "This has no power. This does not affect me. This does not exist," and expect the difficulty to vanish as if by magic. But that is not enough, because denial is not elimination. Every denial that is not immediately followed by an affirmation leaves a vacuum, and every vacuum in the mind will be occupied either by what was there before or by something worse. This is an absolute law. The mind cannot remain empty. The mind is fertile ground, living soil. It is a creative atmosphere, never inactive, always in process, always occupied. If you do not plant, something else will plant. If you do not choose the seed, the wind will bring another. And if you do not immediately introduce a new image, the old one, even if denied, will find a way to re-establish itself, disguised as prudence, habit, or emotional memory. That is why Jesus taught the law of displacement with severe clarity. When the unclean spirit has gone out of a man, it passes through waterless places seeking rest and finds none. Then it says, "I will return to my house from which I came." And when it comes, it finds it swept and put in order. Then it goes and takes with it 7 other spirits more wicked than itself, and they enter and dwell there, and the last state of that man becomes worse than the first. Luke 11:24-26. This passage has often been misinterpreted as a threat or punishment, but in reality, it is an exact lesson in operative metaphysics. What is called the unclean spirit here is a negative mental form, a toxic belief, an image of limitation. It is expelled through treatment, decree, or conscious denial. But if it is not immediately replaced with a new image, a new vibration, a new mental occupation, then the old form returns, reinforced by similar forms, because the space was left empty, without substitution. The mind is like a room. You can clean the dust, remove broken furniture, open the windows, but if you do not place a new chair, a new lamp, a new order, the room will fill again with the same old things you removed. Such is the behavior of consciousness. It is not enough to say, "I no longer want this." You must declare firmly, "This is what I now accept," and repeat it, sustain it, see it, affirm it, until it fully occupies the space left by the old. We call this the law of displacement, because mental energy behaves like a fluid. It occupies all available space. And if the new thought does not completely displace the old will find a way to infiltrate, like water seeping through a crack. The only way to ensure stable change is to actively occupy the mind with the new image. Here enters the law of mentalism. This law, a pillar of true metaphysics, teaches that all is mind, that the substance of the universe is thought, and that visible form is nothing more than condensed thought, structured, fixed, stable in vibration. Everything you see, touch, or feel is organized thought. What changes form is what changes the mental pattern that sustains it. Thus, there is no real substitution unless the vibrational structure of thought within you has been modified. And that structure only changes through sustained affirmation. Not an empty affirmation repeated without conviction, but a declaration born from the knowledge of your unity with the principle. It is not enough to say, "I am healthy." You must declare, "I am the perfect health that God already is. I am eternal life manifesting here and now. There is no space in my consciousness for any image other than the fullness of Christ." And as you declare this, you must hold the corresponding image. See yourself already healthy, strong, and free. That image, repeated and charged with emotion, naturally displaces the previous image, not by effort but by law. Two opposing thoughts cannot occupy the same space of consciousness simultaneously. A practical example: a woman, after years of financial fear, began working on her consciousness of provision. She firmly denied scarcity, saying, "Scarcity has no power over me." Yet she continued to view her bills with anxiety, read headlines of crisis, and repeat phrases like, "Everything is so difficult." She had not completed the substitution. She had swept the room but had not furnished it. I instructed her to, each morning upon waking, affirm aloud for 5 minutes. "God is my source. Abundance flows to me continuously, naturally and perfectly. I am one with the infinite substance of good. I lack nothing. Everything I need is fulfilled. I am already provision incarnate." Additionally, I asked her to immediately replace every thought of scarcity with this image. See herself entering a store calmly, choosing without checking prices, blessing with love everything she bought, and affirming internally, "The universe is my unlimited storehouse." She practiced this consistently. Within 3 weeks, her situation changed, not by luck, but by displacement. And you can do the same, but you must be precise. You must act like a careful gardener. Pull the weeds, yes, but plant the correct seed immediately, because the soil cannot remain empty, and when the mind is without content, it returns to previous content. Here is a simple exercise to apply this law. Identify the negative thought, write it down, be honest. Example, "I never have enough money." Clearly deny its power. Example, "That belief has no authority over me. It is only an old mental image I no longer accept." Immediately declare the new truth. Example, "I am abundance. Good flows into my life in divine order." Hold a living image. Visualize a scene coherent with the new thought. Do it not only in words, but with emotion, sensation, and certainty. Repeat whenever the old image tries to return. Do not argue with it or analyze it. Displace it. It is not about struggle, it is about choice. It is not about elimination, it is about replacement. It is not about analysis, it is about creation. This is the hidden art known to the wise and neglected by the foolish. The key to all transformation is not how much you deny the old, but that you also install the new. The mind does not reform through emptiness, but through replacement. The soul does not evolve through renunciation, but through new affirmations of being. Make immediate substitution your daily practice. Do not allow a single old thought to remain unchallenged. Leave no corner of your consciousness unilluminated. Fill everything with truth. Repeat, declare, visualize, and you will see how the mountain, having lost the mold that sustains it, dissolves without struggle. For where principle reigns, illusion has no place. Chapter 7. Operational Faith, the Invisible Mechanics of Creative Thought. Faith is one of the most misunderstood words in spiritual language. Over the centuries, it has been reduced to an emotional act, confused with hope, dressed in sentimentality, exalted as an abstract virtue, or interpreted as a blind leap into the unknown. But faith, in its pure essence, is not emotion, superstition, or resignation. Faith is a specific function of the mind, a conscious, directed, sustained, and exact action. Faith is a spiritual law in motion. If you do not understand faith as law, your practice will be weak. If you turn it into emotion, you will fluctuate with every wind of experience. If you make it dependent on sensation, your progress will be unstable. But if you learn that faith is a mental force activated through alignment with the principle, then you will hold in your hands the greatest creative power ever revealed to man. Because faith does not perform miracles, it simply sets in motion the law that already exists. Faith does not persuade God, it simply synchronizes your consciousness with the flow of the eternal. Faith does not invent truth, It aligns with it and allows it to express itself. Faith is the magnet that attracts the form corresponding to sustained thought, not by favoritism, but by resonance. Jesus illustrated this principle masterfully in the story of the Roman centurion, Matthew 8, 5 and 10. This man, outside official religion, outside rituals, outside the theological structure of his time, approached Jesus with a clear request that his servant be healed. But when Jesus offered to go to his house, the centurion replied, "Lord, I am not worthy that you should enter under my roof, but only say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I also am a man under authority, with soldiers under my command. And I say to this one, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes. And to my servant, do this, and he does it." And Jesus, amazed, said, "I have not found such great faith, not even in Israel." This passage contains the functional blueprint of operational faith. The centurion did not express emotion, cry, or plead. He did not explain or justify. He simply declared, "Just say the word, and it will happen." Why? Because he understood the mechanism of creative thought. He knew that the word spoken with authority, sustained by consciousness aligned with the principle, has immediate effect. He did not need proof, signs, or physical presence. His faith was not placed in a ritual. It was placed in the certainty that the word itself contains the power of fulfillment. Here we see that true faith is not blind. It is absolutely lucid. It is not passive. It is dynamic. It is not fragile. It is precise mental geometry. The centurion understood the hierarchical structure of authority. Just as he gave orders that were obeyed, he knew the divine mind, when invoked, acts by law without delay. That is operational faith. So how do you develop this kind of faith? First, abandon the idea that faith is an emotional state. Emotion may accompany, but it is not the source. Faith arises from understanding, and understanding comes through study, reflection, observation, and application. Faith does not fall from the sky. It is built, cultivated, and exercised. It is like a mental muscle. Every time you think with order, every time you affirm a truth, even if external form contradicts it, every time you choose principle over appearance, you are exercising faith. Second, understand that faith is mental alignment with truth. This means that faith is not about believing in something as if it were external. It is about thinking from truth as the starting point. It is not the same to say, "I hope to be healed," as to say, "I am health," because that is the nature of God, and you are one with Him. In the first case, you are hoping for something that may or may not occur. In the second, you are affirming a law that is already in operation. Third, use the practical tools of operational faith. Continuous visualization is not an exercise in fantasy. It is a sustained act of directed imagination. Visualize the desired outcome with precision. Do not allow contradictory images. Eliminate distractions. If you seek peace, visualize peace. If you seek provision, imagine your life already supplied, and do this regularly as one waters a plant. 2. Internal repetition. Every idea requires consolidation. Repeat precise affirmations such as, "My word has power because I am in the principle. What I decree is fulfilled. Good already exists, and I accept it now." Do this quietly in silence while walking or waiting. Do it not as a superstitious mantra, but as mental impregnation. 3. Build mental structures of trust. Take inventory of the times you have correctly applied a spiritual truth, and it worked. Review it, reinforce it. The mind needs evidence, and you provide it through your own record. Every experience is a brick in the building of your certainty, and the stronger your certainty, the more effective your word will be. Operational faith does not manifest only in great moments. It expresses itself in every daily lesson. When you choose to think well of someone who has offended you, you are using faith. When you affirm that something will be resolved, even without seeing the path, you are using faith. When you bless instead of curse, give thanks before receiving, or continue to pray without immediate change, you are exercising faith as creative action. Most importantly, when your faith is based on the understanding that the principle never fails, your word becomes substance, and your decree becomes form. God does not respond to whims, but He does respond to the law of aligned consciousness. Error cannot resist the light of conscious faith. Limitation cannot sustain itself before the image of a mind that has accepted fullness as reality. The mountain, no matter how solid it seems, cannot resist the vibration of a consciousness that speaks from unity with being. You do not need perfect faith, you need operational faith. Faith as a voluntary, precise, and ordered act. Faith as structured alignment with the order of the universe. And such faith, exercised as law, cannot fail because the law is God in action and God never contradicts himself. Chapter 8. The mountain cast into the sea, irreversible transformation. Every true teaching must ultimately lead to a deep and irreversible transformation. It is not about masking the problem, superficially modifying it, or distracting the mind with decorative ideas. It is about completely dissolving the mental form that gave rise to the problem and returning it to its original source, the universal consciousness. This is the highest meaning of Jesus' promise. Truly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, "Be removed and be cast into the sea," and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. Mark 11:23. Most people reading this statement imagine a scene of spectacular displacement, a mountain flying through the air, vanishing from sight, overcome by the power of a fiery command. But the symbolism here is far deeper. It is not about physically moving a mountain. It is about completely dissolving a mental form of obstacle, returning it to its original substance, the divine consciousness that absorbs, transmutes, and reintegrates all. When the mountain is cast into the sea, it is not stored, hidden, or postponed. It is returned to universal consciousness for final dissolution. This implies that it cannot return, it cannot reappear in another form, it cannot reactivate later because its cause has been transformed. The branch of the problem has not been cut, the root has been uprooted. To complete this process, it is essential to understand what the sea represents in biblical language. Throughout Scripture, the sea symbolizes the primordial substance, the formless divine consciousness, the inexhaustible flow from which everything originates and to which everything returns. In Genesis, the Spirit of God moves over the face of the waters. In Revelation, the sea no longer exists because all has been absorbed into divine order. The sea represents the universal plane of the creative mind before forms condense. Thus, to cast the mountain into the sea means to dissolve the limited form in the ocean of the principle, where it loses all particular power, merges with the universal, and can no longer manifest as an obstacle. This is the key to irreversible transformation. There is no struggle, no resistance, no image of evil to oppose, only total absorption, integration into truth. This is higher than healing. Healing may imply improvement, but transmutation means the thing no longer exists in its previous form. It has changed state. It has been redeemed at its cause, like ice melting into water, like fog dissolving in the morning sun. There are no remnants, no active memory, no psychic residue. The image no longer has form, vibration, or presence. To achieve this, it is essential to apply what we call metaphysical forgetting. This does not mean suppressing a memory by force. It means ceasing to identify with the old mental form. Just as you stop thinking about a room once you leave it, you must cease to occupy the mountain once it has been cast into the sea. Do not track it, do not watch it, do not remember it, do not speak of it. This is vital because many people, even after praying, declaring, affirming, and sensing a change, continue to observe their life as if the problem could return. That ambiguous expectation, the just in case, reactivates the image, energizes it, revives it. By contrast, the one who has cast their mountain into the sea lives as if the mountain had never existed. That is the mark of authentic transformation. A man came to me with deep affliction. He had lost everything in a financial collapse and felt haunted by the image of failure. He had tried affirmations and decrees, but he continued to speak of his ruin, analyze it, repeat it, and seek meaning in it. I told him clearly, "Your problem is not the bankruptcy, your problem is that you have made it your identity." I taught him a specific treatment. Each morning upon waking, he would sit in silence, imagine the mountain, his sense of failure, and visualize it being absorbed by an infinite sea of light. Then he would affirm, "This image no longer exists. It has been cast into the sea of truth. It has no more form, no more power. I am free, whole, renewed. Good flows through me as never before." He was instructed to do this without ever speaking of the problem again, without justifying or commenting on it. At first it was difficult. Then he began to feel relief. In a month, the memory of the ruin no longer caused pain. In 2 months, new opportunities arrived. In 6 months, his situation was transformed, not by magic, but by transformation of cause. The mountain was gone. It had been cast into the sea. Therefore, do not insist on struggling with your mountains. Do not argue with them. Do not analyze them endlessly. Do the inner work. Declare the dissolution. Visualize their return to the mental ocean of the principle. And then forget. Yes, forget, not out of negligence, but out of spiritual intelligence. The memory of the error reactivates the form, and you have come to release, not to perpetuate. Use this transmutation prayer whenever something attempts to return. I do not belong to the past. I have no allegiance to limitation. My mind is a channel of divine order. This mountain no longer exists. It has been absorbed by truth, and in me only the eternal dwells. Declare it without dramatic emotion. Declare it with peace, with certainty, for the true proof that the mountain has been cast into the sea is not a shout of victory. It is silence. The silence of one who no longer watches, the silence of one who no longer doubts, the silence of one who lives from completed transformation. When you reach this state, you do not need to see the mountain move. You know it is gone, not by sight, but by law, not by proof, but by consciousness, and that silent knowing is the seal of the irreversible. Chapter 9. The Metaphysical Treatment Surgical Operation of the Soul. Just as a surgeon does not improvise with a scalpel, but operates following an exact, delicate, deep and precise procedure, so too must the soul, when it desires to remove a mountain from its path, act not by emotional impulse or disorderly intuition, but through a structured, conscious, orderly, and progressive metaphysical treatment. The treatment is the scientific tool of the awakened soul. It is inner surgery. The exact spiritual technique is, if we may speak plainly, the way God acts through you to correct the mental mold causing all suffering. A treatment is not a vague prayer, not a pleading supplication, not mechanical repetition. It is a spiritual formula with purpose, and like any formula, it requires order, clarity, and operative faith. No one would expect a physician to remove an appendix by vaguely declaring that it would be healed by faith alone. A procedure is followed. The table is prepared, instruments are sterilized, the affected tissue is located, the incision is made, the cause removed, and the wound sutured. In the same way, the trained spiritual mind, when performing a metaphysical treatment, diagnoses the error, locates the mental image, applies truth, aligns consciousness, and removes every focus of doubt. General structure of the metaphysical treatment. 1. Recognition of the principle. Every spiritual operation begins with a firm and clear declaration that God is the only power, the only origin, the only substance. This step establishes the sacred field of the treatment. The problem is not mentioned here, only the truth is declared. God is absolute good, infinite intelligence, eternal harmony. God is all in all, without opposites or enemies. God is the only real cause, and His will is good. 2. Unity with the principle. In this phase, consciousness aligns. It is affirmed that the human being is not separate from God, that you and the principle are one. This is the operative key. The soul recognizes itself not as a victim, but as a channel. I am one with God. The mind that created me now acts in me as I. There is no separation. Divine life flows through me now. 3. Constructive denial of error. This is not about superficially denying the problem. Its reality as a cause is denied. All power is removed, energy is withdrawn, and it is declared illusory, without basis in the principle. This apparent evil has no origin in God and therefore has no reality in my consciousness. It has no substance, law, or continuity. It cannot operate in me or through me. I no longer accept it as part of my world. 4. Creative affirmation of truth. Here the new mental equivalent is introduced. The desired result is visualized as already fulfilled. It is declared with certainty. The act becomes operative. Emotion accompanies but does not lead. Perfect health is the law of my being. Divine intelligence regulates every cell in my body. Universal harmony now manifests in this situation. 5. Seal of gratitude and closure. The treatment is sealed with gratitude, not as courtesy, but as a vibratory seal. Gratitude indicates certainty. Here, the image is released to the principle. The decree is completed. Thank you, God, because this is already done. I release it with peace. I accept it with joy. I do not need to see to know. The good already is. Models of treatment by areas. A. Health. God is perfect, infinite, harmonious life. This life created me and now acts in every organ, every cell, every function. I do not accept as true any diagnosis that contradicts the law of life. I give no power to disease, nor claim it as mine. I am manifested health. Divine intelligence is my physician, my guide, my energy. I see myself healthy, strong, free. I feel harmony flowing through my entire body. Thank you, God, because it is already done. B. Provision. God is my sole source of provision. The universe is abundance in continuous expansion. Nothing can separate me from good. Every appearance of scarcity is a shadow without substance. The human channel may vary, but the source remains. I now accept prosperity in all its forms. I open my mind, heart, and hands to receive. I am spiritual wealth manifesting as material well-being. Thank you, God, because all flows. See relationships. God is love, and that love created me. I'm a unique expression of that love. I attract harmonious, sincere, constructive relationships into my life. Every bond that is not aligned with truth dissolves without pain. I give love, and love is returned multiplied. My words heal, my thoughts bless, my soul walks in the company of the Spirit. Thank you, God, because love manifests. D. Life purpose. God created me with an eternal purpose. My life has meaning, direction, and value. Divine will expresses itself through my gifts. Each day I receive clear guidance step by step. I am on my correct path in perfect timing with precise means. Nothing can prevent me from expressing who I am. I am an instrument of good, useful, inspired, at peace. Thank you, God, because all in me aligns. Practical application. Perform your treatments in moments of calm. Write them down. Read them aloud. Meditate on them. Do it once daily if with depth. 3 times if facing a persistent image. Do not repeat mechanically. Do not improvise. Do not mix with fear-based emotions. Do them with precision as the surgeon of the soul. Remember, you do not need to convince God. You only need to correct the mental image, because the mountain does not exist outside thought. Once thought changes, the mountain dissolves. Chapter 10. Record of Mountains, the Diary of Transformation. Every spiritual work, in order to endure over time, must move from the invisible to the visible. Just as an architect does not build a house without a blueprint, so too must the soul that wishes to see mountains move maintain a record of its inner work. The spiritual diary is not a sentimental exercise. It is a technical tool. It is the alchemist's notebook, the metaphysician's laboratory, the logbook of the inner navigator. It is where faith becomes visible, where prayer leaves a mark, where the treatment reveals its power. It is an active embodiment of the Word, the instrument that writes what transforms, anchors transformation in consciousness. Each time you record a treatment, note a date, or describe a conquered emotion, you are vibrationally fixing that change in your deep mind, preventing the old image from returning. In this context, writing is a spiritual act. It is a seal of truth over invisible substance. The Diary of Resolved Mountains should be kept not as a ritual, but as a method. It is not a confessional or an outlet for emotion. It is an instrument of precision. Here you will record honestly, clearly, and structurally each mountain you have identified, treated, and seen disappear. This record serves as evidence of the law, as concrete testimony that faith, when exercised as directed thought, produces visible, verifiable, and sustainable results. Structure of the spiritual diary. A diary of mountains should have 4 fundamental columns. They do not need to be physical, but they must exist conceptually. You may adapt them to your style, but you must not omit them. 1. Identification of the mountain. Here clearly note which mental form you are treating, not the outward circumstance, but the inner cause. For example, do not write, "I have money problems." Write, "I am treating the belief that I do not deserve abundance." The mountain is not what happens outside, it is the image you have accepted within. Naming it causes it to lose power over you. 2. Treatment applied. Describe in detail the metaphysical treatment you used. Note whether it was verbal, written, visual, affirmative, or silent. Include dates, times, and duration. Also include whether you repeated the operation and your inner state. For example, I applied the provision treatment for 7 consecutive days each morning at 7 a.m. with sustained visualization of my balanced bank account. I felt increasing peace. On day 5, I began noticing signs of change. This creates a consciousness pattern. You are not improvising. You are working scientifically with the mind. 3. Symptoms of transformation. Here record not only visible results but also inner changes. Often the physical result takes time to manifest, but the mental change is already underway. Recording it prevents abandoning the process. For example, I no longer feel fear when opening accounts. I feel freer speaking about money. I began having new ideas about income. These signs are like the first sprout of a seed. Without observation, you might think the ground remains barren, but by recording them, you acknowledge that the law is already operating. 4. Concluded result. Finally, when the mountain has been thrown into the sea, precisely record the moment of fulfillment, not with superficial euphoria, but with conscious recognition. Note the exact date, what was resolved, how it manifested, and how you felt and learned. This act of closure is crucial. It is the weld between the internal world and the external world. It is the moment when the invisible becomes visible and faith becomes form. Spiritual utility of the record. The Diary of Mountains is not just for remembering the past, it is an instrument of future faith. In moments of doubt, on grey days, or when error seems to return disguised, you open that notebook, read what has already occurred, and remember that the law never failed. There is no greater teacher than your own evidence. Personal testimony carries a power no sermon can match, not because it is emotional, but because it is embodied. You are no longer repeating teachings, you are citing your own transformation. This is spiritual authority. This is mental mastery. Example, a young office worker suffered from stuttering whenever he had to speak publicly. He had tried breathing techniques, speech exercises, even medical treatments, but could not overcome the image, "I cannot speak well." I suggested he treat that image as a mental mountain and keep a step-by-step record. Day 1. Treated the image, "I have no voice," declared, "My word flows freely and powerfully because I am an expression of the principle." I felt skeptical, but did it anyway. Day 3. Noticed less tension when speaking with his boss. Did not flow perfectly, but it was different. Day 6. Spoke during a meeting without stumbling. Short, but he succeeded. Felt joy. Day 10. Presented a full report. Felt free. The mountain moved. This young man not only overcame a problem, he acquired a method, and the record became his support column. Retrospective meditations. Once a month, dedicate time to read your diary from the beginning, not with nostalgia, but with gratitude. Meditate on the mountains that no longer exist. Reconstruct the feeling. Acknowledge and say, "This is evidence of the law. This is proof that good operates in me. What was moved cannot return. Truth endures. I am witness to the power." These meditations reinforce spiritual identity. They remind you who you are. They free you from forgetting, because forgetfulness is the gateway of fear, and spiritual memory is the soul's vaccine. Begin your diary of mountains today. Do not fear being meticulous. Discipline is devotion in action, and each line written in consciousness is a seed of truth that will bloom when needed. Make your story your authority. Make your records your altar. Make your transformation a living book, because mountains move, and you are living proof. Chapter 11. Christ in you, the one who moves the mountain. Up to this point, we have traveled the path of the trained mind, of conscious treatment, of affirmative word, of the sustained mental equivalent. We have learned that the mountain is not a physical rock, but a psychic structure. We have learned that its removal is not to be begged for, but that its dissolution is to be decreed with authority. We have studied the procedure, the techniques, the internal images, and the mental laws that sustain all real healing. But now the time has come to reveal the living core of all this work, Christ in you. There is no power outside of you that moves the mountain. There is no distant God whom you must persuade to act. There is no magic, no external intervention, no celestial will descending to fulfill your desire as a reward for faith. The mountain moves because Christ in you awakens, and when he rises in consciousness, every false image melts, not by force but by recognition, not by violence but by light. Jesus taught this clearly, not as dogma but as revelation. The kingdom of God is within you. Luke 17:21. That kingdom is not a place nor a future, it is a presence, a consciousness, an active truth, and that truth is Christ. What is Christ? Christ is not the man Jesus, though Jesus perfectly embodied him. Christ is the principle of divinity in you. He is the intelligence that knows, the light that guides, the love that dissolves all fear. He is the seed of God in your soul. He is the eternal Word made flesh in your mind. He is that which was not born and does not die, which does not change and does not age. He is the I am in its highest expression. When you say I am health, you are not declaring a wish. You are allowing Christ to speak. When you say I am prosperity, you are not imagining a future. You are recognizing your true nature. When you say I am free, you are not escaping a circumstance. You are cancelling an illusion from the very center of your being. But this is only possible if you understand the difference between personality and Christ in you. Personality says, I need. Christ says, I am, and personality struggles, suffers, anguishes, begs. Christ observes, affirms, declares, and produces. Personality doubts, Christ knows. Therefore, it is not the personality that moves the mountain, it is Christ in you. And that is why many prayers fail. They are offered from the ego, from anxiety, from a sense of lack. The mountain is not moved by tears, it is moved by spiritual authority. And spiritual authority is only held by one who has identified with Christ. How to cultivate this consciousness? How does one move from impersonal faith to the manifestation of Christ within? Here are practical methods of identification with the presence. 1. Morning affirmation of Christ in you. Upon awakening, before speaking or thinking about the day, pause and say, today fear does not live in me. Today the past does not govern me. Today Christ alive rises in me. I am one with the divine mind. I am the perfect expression of the principle. All that I think, speak, and do will be from the I am. This declaration is not psychological, it is spiritual. It does not seek to motivate, it seeks to remind you who you are. 2. Silent prayer of union. Close your eyes, breathe calmly. Visualize a point of light at the center of your chest. Do not name it. Do not shape it. Simply recognize it. It is the presence that knows. Do not speak to it. Do not ask anything. Only say mentally that you are me, I am you. There are not two, there is only one. This is my truth. This is my peace. This is my authority. Remain in this state for a few minutes. Do not expect to feel anything. Do not seek sensations. Simply allow consciousness to align. This is the highest prayer. It does not ask. It recognizes. 3. Christ-centered declaration during treatment. When performing a metaphysical treatment, do not act from lack. Act from Christ. Say, it is not I, but Christ in me who declares, this situation has no power. This image is an illusion. Truth is fullness, and I am that fullness. I do not labor for it to be fulfilled. I let it be fulfilled. For Christ makes no effort, he is, and since I am that Christ, the mountain is no longer present. Thank you, God, for it is already done. This is true prayer. Prayer that neither begs, fears, nor negotiates. Prayer that recognizes, establishes, affirms. Prayer that does not seek to move the mountain, but to remember that it has already been moved. Metaphysical interpretation of Christ. In every biblical story where Christ appears, there is a key to consciousness. Do not see it as a foreign story. See it as a mirror of yourself. When Jesus walks on water, it is not magic. It is the mind mastering emotion. When he calms the storm, it is not a miracle. It is Christ settling the agitated mind. When he heals the blind, it is not mystical power. It is consciousness illuminating ignorance. And when he says, whoever believes in me will also do the works I do, and greater works than these will he do. John 14:12. He is not instructing you to worship. He is instructing you to recognize the same presence in you. Do not worship Christ as an external image. Manifest Christ as your true identity. Christ did not come to be adored. He came to be awakened in you. When that awakening occurs, every mountain turns to dust. For Christ does not see mountains, he sees only the kingdom, the Christ, and the I am. When Moses asked God his name, the answer was neither theological nor philosophical. It was direct, luminous, absolute. I am who I am, Exodus 3:14. This is the sacred name. This is the operative name. This is Christ verbalized. Therefore, every time you say I am, you activate the most powerful creative formula ever revealed. If a lie follows your I am, you create confusion. But if truth follows your I am, your entire life aligns. Do not say I am weak, for that is false. Do not say I am limited, for that contradicts your origin. Say instead, I am light, I am life, I am intelligence, I am Christ manifested. And when you say it, do not feel it as distant. Feel it present. Feel it operating now. And the mountain, whatever it is, will disappear, not by your effort, but because Christ in you has spoken. And when he speaks, the universe obeys. Chapter 12, The Legacy of Victory, Teaching Others. Every truly fulfilled spiritual path culminates not in isolated self-realization, but in the expansion of good to others. It is not only about resolving your own obstacles, it is about becoming a bridge for the liberation of others. The mountain you have moved was not only yours, it was also part of the collective weight of humanity. And now that you have dissolved it in light, it is your responsibility to teach how it is done. This is the final phase of the victorious soul, transmitting the principle. Moving mountains is the initial task. Teaching others to move them is the complete spiritual mission. Just as the seed does not content itself with blooming but produces fruit, and that fruit gives rise to new seeds, so too have you, the reader, been called to expand the law that liberated you. This expansion is not proselytism. It is not making disciples of yourself. It is awakening Christ consciousness. It is reminding the people around you that they are not destined for suffering, that they were not born for chaos, that they can think with order, with direction, with power, and create new realities. The Master himself, once his mission in form was fulfilled, gave this command, which has not lost its power. Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Matthew 28:19. This is not a religious command, it is an order of consciousness. Go does not mean to travel in space, it means to leave inner selfishness. Make disciples does not mean to recruit people, it means to ignite consciousness. Baptize does not mean to sprinkle physical water, it means to immerse the soul in the understanding of its divine identity. Baptize in the name of the Father. Remember that God is absolute principle, eternal good. Baptize in the name of the Son. Reveal that Christ lives in every human being. Baptize in the name of the Holy Spirit. Activate consciousness of unity and action. This is the teaching you who have moved your mountains are called to transmit. You do not need a pulpit. You do not need a title. You do not need external permission. You only need to live what you know, speak from experience, be an embodied example. And in doing so, others will naturally come to you. Some will come with questions, some with pain, some with resistance, and you, with serenity, will show that no mountain is too heavy for the law. Spiritual mentorship. Becoming a guide does not mean imposing, it means accompanying with understanding and firmness. Speak not from superiority, but from experience. Do not repeat concepts, transmit consciousness. Remember that no one is asleep from malice, they are asleep from habit. Your task is not to shake them violently, but to ignite a spark that gently awakens. Ask yourself if you are ready to teach. Have I moved a mountain without turning back? Can I apply the law consistently even in the midst of trial? Am I willing to see Christ in another, even when they do not recognize it? Can I listen without judgment and respond with clarity? Can I teach without seeking recognition? If your soul answers yes, even faintly, you are ready. Do not wait to be perfect to begin. Start with what you know, and every teaching you give will strengthen you further. The disciple who will be sent. The law is so perfect that once you are ready to transmit it, the disciple will appear. They may not be who you expect. They may not arrive with an angelic face. Sometimes they will come with cynicism, doubt, or anger. But if you have learned to see beyond appearances, you will recognize them. They are a soul seeking their Christ. Do not give them rigid formulas. Give them eternal principles. Do not solve everything for them. Teach them how to solve. Do not lead them to dependence. Lead them to their own center of authority. And when they see their first mountain move, they will know it was not you. It was Christ within them, and you were only the mirror needed. Gifts of the teaching soul. When you transmit the truth that liberated you, your soul expands, faith deepens, the ego dissolves, understanding strengthens. You experience a peace that cannot be achieved through personal accomplishments. You discover that the greatest miracle was not moving your own mountain. It was seeing another move theirs, knowing that you planted the possibility. This is the legacy, not the book you write, not the group you form, but the soul you awaken. Universal Blessing Prayer. For those who have come this far and feel the inner calling to transmit, I leave this prayer, not to be repeated mechanically, but to be spoken in secret, with inner voice, as a sacred commitment. Father, Mother God, source of all light, I who have seen mountains move by your law offer myself now as a channel of teaching, not for my glory, but for the good of all. Teach me to see Christ in every soul, to speak only from truth, to guide with humility, clarity, and love, to seek not disciples but brothers and sisters, and to sow consciousness where there is still shadow. I am a bearer of principle. I am a witness of good. I am a sower of faith. Thank you, God, for this work is already accomplished. Thus the circle is completed. Thus the path that began with a mountain closes in a mission. You, the reader, are not the same as when you began this book. Now you know that you can not only transform your life, but also help transform the world. Do it, for you already know how, and the good supports you.